Um. No visual. The driver was being placed under arrest. Now let's get his name. The driver better identified as then into the pedals. Um, in South Rockford. Oh my gosh, the vehicle. I should be done here in a couple minutes. Um, um.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Hi. Sorry to interrupt y'all. Is it just the two of you in here? There's nobody else. There's no 95s or anything.
No, just us.
No.
Okay. I'm gonna be bringing sanitation in. They're coming to collect the trash. So they're just gonna be down in here for a quick second,
Okay.
and then they'll be back out. Okay. Just want to let
Sounds
y'all know.
good. Thank you.
Oh, good.
Yeah. No problem.
Hmm. Missing cuffs searched and um do. All right, so mm 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 mm. Let's see.
Alright, I'm all done.
All right, one moment. um uh, all right. Oh, I don't know about this song right now. Nope. 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 Not happening. Is your report ready? Sorry.
Yeah, man. Yep.
All right. Let me
It's
just
in there
check
now.
here. Mm. um, I want the damn. You know what? I can do this. All right. So, am I good to save the report as it currently stands?
Yep.
All right. So let's come over your report. I haven't read it yet. But you stated during a patrol, Officer Lawson, Officer Rhodes observed a male individual driving in a gray color Seminole off a ramp in the car park south of Lindsay Circus. The male landed on the footpath below, having no regard for himself or others around him. Officer Lawson drove to the bottom and initiated a traffic stop with said individual, who would be identified shortly after as Mr. Yash Muhammad. Mr. Muhammad was abrasive at first when Officer Lawson approached, while Officer Rhodes stayed inside the vehicle in the event the suspect were to flee. Given his previous record and the circumstances surrounding the situation, Officer Lawson and Officer Rhodes came to a decision to attempt to arrest Mr. Muhammad for reckless driving. Mr. Mohammed then fled in his vehicle, initiating a vehicle pursuit. After 3 to 5 minutes of chasing Mr. Mohammed, officers watched him jump his vehicle into the San Andreas canals and decided to call the pursuit off due to safety concerns. Soon after, Officer Lawson and Officer Rhodes spotted Mr. Mohammed outside the clothing store on South Rockford Drive, initiated a traffic stop where he jumped out of the vehicle and attempted to flee on foot before hopping into a newly rented Seminole, initiating another pursuit with officers. Officer used pit techniques to attempt to stop the vehicle. He then stopped and got out of the vehicle and surrendered to officers. He was detained and transported to MRPD, where he was processed accordingly. So, in this report, there's a few things to consider here. Number one, when you're making these reports, you want to hit on everything that you can within reason. For example, right now we don't necessarily have a system in place to verify rental vehicles, but obviously we have his guilty plea to support that, right? Like if we accuse him of something and he says, "Yeah, I did it," that's obviously sufficient, right? So within your report, there's a sort of, I guess you could say, lack of explanation into certain things, because although you can say someone was recklessly driving, the bit that you want to hit on is how was it reckless? Like you have to explain without just reiterating the phrase, right? You want to explain that they're driving within city limits at 100 plus miles an hour. They were driving into opposing lanes. I mean, hell, in the pursuit, you called out that they were on the footpath at a certain point. All of those play into proving, reckless driving or reckless evading. And if it is reckless evading, you make mention of, they're fleeing from officers in a vehicle at high rates of speed in opposing lanes, all that stuff. And that really would cover, the reckless driving in your statement is pretty much covered, because you stated they went off a ramp, in the car park south of Lindsay Circus, landed on the footpath, having no regard for himself or others around him. So you have that. Operating a motor vehicle without proper identification wasn't covered in your report. Now, obviously, there's evidence, but again, you want to hit on it within the actual explanation. And the last bit is misuse of rental vehicle. Ultimately, like I said, he pled guilty to the charges. We don't have a way to verify if a vehicle is rented. Obviously, given the amount of times we pull over, Glendales, Seminoles, and such, it's not difficult to assume those things. But the reality here is if he wanted to appeal those, which he no longer can because he pled guilty, he likely would have had the means to. However, if he did, hell, we could potentially push for, subpoena for your bank records. Alternatively, maybe we'd be able to subpoena business records from the rental company to determine if he was the one to rent the vehicle. So there's things to consider in that aspect. Oops, sorry. Did not mean to put that there in your report. I am closing out of the report. Just make sure you save it once you've made a decent amount of progress.
Yeah. So pretty much just covering all the charges that you put in that section, really.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
Yep,
I've
that is
added
exactly
in now
it.
that, yeah, I added in now that he, when we initiated the traffic stop, we noticed as well that his license was expired. I added in the part of during the pursuit for the reckless evading, he was driving at high rates of speed.
Yep.
100 miles per hour plus in city limits, as well as driving on footpaths.
So yeah, that ultimately covers
Yeah,
the
resisting arrest was already in it.
Yep.
And yeah, the rental vehicle's in it. Yeah, sweet. Okay. Yeah,
so if you have that, you are good on that front. Now, obviously, we had Den go ahead and document the vehicle. It's not in the report or incident yet, but if you were the one to have taken photos, obviously you'd make sure you put that in. Are you aware of the vehicle section on the MDT?
Yeah.
Okay, so just a quick rundown. It's really not utilized all that much right now because there's actually no legislation for strikes and such on vehicles. Not that putting it there implies it's getting striked. Most times it does, though. But don't try. You can try. It's not going to work. If it's owned by a rental company or a local or anything like that, anything you put in there is pretty much just going to vanish. So,
Okay.
personally owned cars ideally is what you're trying to document within that. If it is, if it comes back to the rental company or anything like that, ultimately, you just document the plate, the registered owner of the vehicle, stuff like that. But that's on that front. The report writing, not that bad. Definitely room for improvement. I will say, Well, actually, we're gonna go over a couple more things. First being, let me know once you're good with the report portion of things. If you're all done.
All done there, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So you can go ahead and close that out. You want to make sure if you are in the MDT, you do not have an active report out or report open. Because if you do, when someone starts typing within that report, which is common during a situation where there's, multiple officers, 30 minutes later, an officer may be typing in it, and then you'll deal with some other unrelated issues. But give me a second here. I do want to run through a few things with you. Once you are all good, let me know.
Yep, all good.
Perfect. So, when it comes to reports, I don't necessarily have much an issue. I mean, it's not necessarily like the best. It's not the worst. It's sort of somewhere in between. Like I said, definitely room for improvement, but that's gonna come. That's gonna come with practice. I will say, your processing, not bad. I'm looking at the prior FTO report, and it doesn't really indicate that there was any processing, so it's possible an arrest wasn't made at that time.
Yeah, no, we didn't.
Your processing is not that bad, but there's definitely room for improvement. For example, you read off the charges, and then sort of immediately resort to tasking whether or not they plead guilty or not guilty. And while that is not necessarily wrong, there's still a few things you want to consider. Obviously, the individuals read their rights. They didn't request an attorney, but it's pretty good practice to ask the individual. You're being charged with this charge, this charge, this charge, this, whatever, and then let them know both their time and fine. Now, like in this situation, the individual was a little taken aback by the large fine. At that point is typically, when I ask, despite already telling them they're entitled to an attorney if one's available, whether or not they would, like me to see if one's available for them. Or if they have sort of any points of contention with any of the charges. That way, there's an open dialogue between yourself and the individuals being placed under arrest. And when you have that open dialogue, typically those points of contention come up fairly quickly. Like, well, what are my charges again? Or what's this charge? And as soon as they start saying, well, what's this charge? What is it, what does that actually mean? Obviously, that's an area of concern that they have with said charges. And at that point, you would then clarify or articulate why they're being charged with that. Once you've concluded that, you can go ahead and ask whether or not they're pleading guilty. Like I said, there is some discretion when it comes to time. Fine is not negotiable. That should never be touched. And you can also structure guilty pleas in different ways. If you feel that, one of your charges may not necessarily be like super ironclad, like, there might be something, you can use that to your advantage. Like if you are fairly confident, when I say fairly confident, like you have PC to push a charge, you don't necessarily have to in every single case. If you feel that there's sort of a weak side to your case, you can be like, listen, you plead guilty to the remainder of the charges, I'm willing to drop this. But that's not to say make something up to try to get them to get the charge down by pleading guilty. Okay. So your processing, I would say, especially for your first time, not bad. But you'll get there. Processing is obviously to include, charges and such. That's gonna come with, time, experience, practice. Like the rental portion or the operating motor vehicle without proper identification, stuff like that. So again, room for improvement there. In terms of professionalism, I didn't really have much an issue with most of what happened. I mean, there were some things, but not anything sort of outlandish. So good on that front. Traffic relatively solid. Except sort of it's tricky because the Seminole traffic stop should not really have taken place on the opposing lane sidewalk.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Also, the other area of concern is throughout the traffic stop, especially when I had mentioned I was going to be in the driver's seat, you had crossed over from the driver's side to the passenger side in between both vehicles, and that should be avoided at all costs. You should almost never, ever, ever be between our police vehicle and their vehicle, because if you are, all it takes is one collision, one person clipping your rear bumper to push it straight towards you, and you know how it is. People see lights and sirens, they're staring. They're not paying attention to what they're doing at all. They're doing everything but paying attention. And if that
Yeah.
vehicle, makes you a pancake between yours and the vehicle you're pulling over, you could be dead. You could lose a leg. Countless things could happen. So you never, ever, 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 ever want to cross between the two cars. You go around completely. It doesn't matter that it doesn't seem ideal. It's the reality of the situation. At the end of the day, your life and your safety is more important than someone getting a citation in, a short amount of time. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Certain things I'm going to sort of throw into traffic. For example, when we had pulled over a vehicle and without communicating, you didn't say anything either over radio, in person. You just jumped into the driver's seat, and that's problematic because we expected the individuals to flee. However, I couldn't get into the vehicle because you had jumped into the driver's seat without communicating that. So please, 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 please make sure you are communicating what's happening, and don't just jump to do something without clarification. If you could have asked over radio, said, "Rhodes, you want me in the driver's seat waiting?" I wouldn't have had a problem with it. However, the issue became, again, it wasn't communicated, and communication is key in these situations.
Yep, I understand.
Referencing traffic. I mean, the original traffic stop really went perfectly fine. Like I said, outside of sort of immediately jumping to, you've been pulled over for this. You want to be more personable. Is that a word? Is that the term I'm looking for?
Yeah,
You want to inquire as to what they're doing. And
Yeah.
again, legally they don't have to answer. But sometimes you can get someone to talk who would otherwise not talk. Yes, I could technically go to any traffic stop, say, "Hi, I'm Officer Rhodes, license and registration. Reason for the stop is you were speeding 37 in a 35." And that'd be pretty much the end of it. They give me an ID, I go to the car, issue them a citation, hand it to them, walk away. No one wants to deal with that. Nobody in this world wants to deal with that. You sort of bring it down to a personal level where, they mention something. Oftentimes you'll get people who make the excuse of, "Oh, I ran the red because I'm colorblind." But if someone told you that, what would you respond with?
I'd say you shouldn't be driving, mate.
Nope. Your response should be, "Colorblind? That's strange, because the red is at the top and the green is at the bottom, and you can't really tell." I sort of do it in sort of a joking way, right? Kind of like a bantery way. And again, I always start. You don't have to do this, but I promise you'll be perceived a lot better. Starting with a question. Like I said, I like to put the ball in their court. If they admit to wrongdoing, if they don't make up bullshit excuses, they tell me they're going to the hospital, but I clock them doing 80 and a 35 heading the opposite way from the hospital, I'm not going to believe you. It's just not going to happen, right? Now, if I clock you doing 80 and a 35, and it's the first time I've ever pulled you over, and you're saying, "Listen, I am sorry, I'm be real, there's no excuse for it." Again, likely going to let you off with a warning. But you sort of have this back and forth. You can ask people on a traffic stop, what they do for a living. Oftentimes, if someone's in a yellow car, hell, I know one parks outside of the apartments just about every day. You can ask them, "Hey, are you like your taxi? What's going on? Why you're trying to pick up a customer? Just try to engage with them the best you can.
Yeah, yep.
It sort of takes away from the sort of very like monotone type job that we could have if we didn't put forth the effort into sort of spicing it up, if you will. Um, the traffic stop, the original one, original second one, I'm not 100% certain. The one where the individual had asked about the speed limits, and again, I brought this up earlier. Just make sure you're not providing people wrong information and then verifying. If you don't have an answer, and you have the resources to be able to research stuff, uh, just tell them to give you a second. You can go back to your car, look it up on the MDT. Take your time. You don't ever have to be in a rush when it comes to these things. Because, like I said, that individual could very likely now be doing 80 on a freeway, even though you clarified afterwards, and they technically would not be lying by stating an officer told me the speed limit on the freeway is 80. Right? They're not telling the full truth, but they're not lying technically. They did indicate that, even though you clarified. And definitely don't give people leeway when it comes to telling them that they could do 1 or 2 or maybe 3 over, because people. You ever hear the phrase, "You give them an inch, they take a mile"?
Yep.
That's exactly what's going to happen. 1, 2, or 3 over never ends up being 36, 37, 38. It ends up being, someone doing 80 miles an hour telling an officer, well, so and so told me I can speed and that I probably wouldn't get a fine. Like, it's silly, it's stupid, it makes no sense, but people are going to do it, I promise you. Absolutely promise you that. What else? I haven't gone over case law. It's something we can go over if you feel you're ready. I have no problems, sort of asking questions regarding case law, if that's something you're interested in doing. Or if you feel you need more time, that's okay. I just obviously wouldn't be able to give any sort of feedback referencing that.
I think case laws. Yeah, I definitely do need to go over them a bit more. But that's
Okay.
something I'm kind of just doing in like my off time when I'm not on shift, so I'm ready for it like the next time I come.
Okay. So you're saying the next time you have an FTO session, case law stuff you'll have sorted out, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Oh, well, I'm not gonna say I'll have it 100% sorted out. Like I'll still obviously be learning as I go, I'm sure. But yeah, I'll definitely be a lot more onto it. That's
Got it.
probably one of the only things besides that and charges. I still need to kind of get study the charges a bit more as well. So that's just more of like so I don't have to keep kind of scrolling through the MDT looking for what charge this person needs or and like the definitions and stuff like that as well.
Right.
But other than that, I
So
mean,
when it comes to the case law, is it a matter of like how it's utilized in sort of like a practical sense, but not so much like a
yeah,
definition? Okay.
yeah,
So you
yeah,
know how
yeah,
to apply each case law. It's just if you were asked specifically to describe each one, it'd be a
yeah,
little
yeah.
rocky. Okay.
That's exactly right. Yeah,
All right.
like a Terry Frisk, for example. Like I know how to apply that practically because I know the common or the basic things for it. But yeah,
Okay. All right. I mean, I'll write that feedback down. That we didn't go over SOPs specifically this time. I wanted to, but unfortunately, it happened at roughly the same time the senior bun stuff happened, and then it was kind of one thing after another. But I mean, the likelihood of me taking you as a cadet is probably going to be fairly high. I'm not going to lie. But the other thing was you absolutely. This is going to be one of the hardest things for everyone. You absolutely need to clean up your comms when doing pursuits. No
yeah,
filler.
yeah,
When you're starting that pursuit, you don't necessarily have to say dispatch. 888 activate. Most times you just be like active 80, Gray Seminole, northbound North Rockford Drive, occupied 3 times, traffic light with a clear speed's 80. Right eastbound, picture perfect. Right southbound, Hardy Way. Left eastbound, West Cliffs Boulevard. After the original comms, there are 3 things. You want turn, cardinal direction, street name. turn, cardinal direction, street name. Nothing else.
Yeah,
No.
Barrett
no
really in the academy drilled it into us, like action, direction, location.
Yeah. And if if you're passing something, there are some people who, for whatever reason, call out like if they're heading east on Haywick, they're calling San Vitas, crossing Las Lagunas, crossing Alta, crossing like that's not necessary by any stretch of the imagination. It's not necessarily. I mean, I'm be real. For some people, it can be very annoying. But you don't need to call out every single cross. On occasion, you're updating, continuing eastbound San Andreas Ave. That's fine. Doing it on occasion is perfectly fine. Don't do it very frequently. Not that you were. And ultimately, you threw in a lot of filler, and I know that comes with nerves. Trust me, been there, done that. But again, you see a vehicle make a right-hand turn, right southbound power, left eastbound occupation, right southbound Elgin, right westbound San Andreas Ave. There needs to be nothing else. Those three things, and that is it.
I think also another thing as well with that is that like the street names and stuff like that. Like I need to. I think once it'll come with like overtime as well. Like
Oh yeah,
kind of
100%,
knowing
100%.
not having to always like try and look at them. Wait for the compass to show me.
Yep, that's why when I learned that this individual was likely going to flee, it's why I wanted to drive, because the reality here is if I wasn't driving and you had to drive while also learning the street names at the same time, the likelihood of the individual getting away is considerably higher if you have to continuously reference street names, take your eyes off the road, maybe not see that they're slamming on their brakes. Otherwise, I would have had you drive, for the pursuit. But I wanted, because for me, driving, while it's important, it's not everything. But the one thing that is important for everybody at all times of the day is communication, radio etiquette, making sure that we are giving the most amount of information in the least amount of words possible, utilizing 10 codes. Every single time there is a filler word. I mean, hell, even Turner called you out on radio briefly, to try to whip you back into shape. I typically allow it to happen. And then I have a conversation with people afterwards. And I know for some people that's not their ideal method of learning, but I'm always open to feedback. If it's not your method of learning, please let me know. I can correct on the spot. The only reason I don't like doing it is because, unfortunately, some people don't really like that method of being taught, where they do something wrong and they're told in front of somebody else. But I don't know, it's a strange dynamic, I'll say. What else? We didn't really go over 10 codes or anything much. Again, didn't really have the opportunity considering everything that happened. So there's still a lot to go over that is kind of still like in the air. It does seem, I will say this, one of the biggest areas of concern, with what was indicated by your prior FTO, was that oftentimes feedback was met with excuses, and that doesn't seem to be happening. So continue on with what you're doing. You seem very receptive to the feedback you're receiving. You're not making excuses, and you're pretty much saying you'll do better, which is what we want to hear. We don't expect cadets to be perfect. We don't expect everyone to know everything their first, second, third, fourth, fifth FTO session. Everyone is at a different level when it comes to knowledge of street names, SOPs, case law. Now the case law one, you absolutely have to start drilling down immediately. That is incredibly important. But I mean, you're not doing terrible. Like I said, definitely room for improvement, but that's going to come with time and practice. It's only your second day out. I think that's it. Did you have any comments, questions, concerns?
No, not really. No, I really enjoyed today. Actually, it was good. I learned a lot actually, and yeah, I think the way you do things is really. It's good to be with a lot of different FTOs. I know I've only been out
Oh,
twice,
100%.
but you learn a lot more. You learn different ways of doing things, and different ways of teaching and stuff like that. It's good. You know, I like it.
Yeah. For me, especially when someone is relatively new to the whole thing, the important bit for me is covering kind of a little of everything until there's a more sort of generalized knowledge behind everything. And then once you have it kind of comes down to the whole saying of like jack of all trades, master of none, once you sort of hit
Yeah.
that point where you can do just about everything, but there's still room for improvement, that's where, ideally I like to sort of hyper focus things.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
like at the beginning I asked, what do you think your biggest area of improvement is? um I I really like to help people who feel that they have a very specific problem that they need help resolving, because I'm not someone who's going to yell at you. The reality here is, Turner may not be everyone's cup of tea. If Turner was FTOing you, he may have yelled at you in some situations. I'm not a yeller. And no one got time for that shit. You're an adult, okay? I'm going to list out expectations, but I'm not going to yell at you. Some people get yelled at and sort of shut down, and then they're nervous for the remainder of their shift in it.
Yeah, it's not really a good way of teaching as
Exactly.
well.
Exactly.
Really.
But in
Don't get me wrong.
saying that, right, Turner is a very, by the book um kind of guy where he will ultimately, not change his standards for anyone. I'm not going to say he's not going to change his standards for anyone. That may not be true, but he's going to do something the way he has always done it and likely not stray from it. But I'm not that person. I can accommodate, a different way of teaching, or accommodate, someone who doesn't pick up knowledge the same way as others, with no issue. Because, like I said, if you don't like being corrected on the fly, tell me that. If you want to be corrected on the fly, tell me that, and I will make sure I accommodate that moving forward. Or hell, I can even throw that into the FTO form we fill out to ensure that moving forward, people do the exact same thing. But again, some people, you correct them, and they get nervous, and then that nervousness causes a whole host of other issues because they're nervous. Their nerves are getting the best of them. We all have those moments. We all have those moments. There's not a single person in this world who is immune from any sort of level of anxiety or being nervous or anything to that extent. It's a matter of dealing with it, um, overcoming it, and just continuing to learn. I know I'm going on a whole spiel, all right, but what I'm saying here is if I am doing something that isn't very accommodating to the way you learn, let me know, all right? Because my job
Yeah.
is to observe and teach you to ensure you don't fuck anything up seriously. You're a cadet. You're going to make mistakes. We just need to make sure they're not really bad ones, okay? And that they're teachable moments.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I appreciate it. It was a good good session I got in.
Do you have any feedback, anything of the sort?
No, all my feedback's positive, man. It was really good. You did
Perfect.
an excellent job.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
One thing, final thing, and then we're calling it here, okay? The final
Yeah.
thing is, within our PD master document, there is a 10 codes section. But the reality here is you will get by with 90% of things utilizing just the most commonly used ones. The additional, things listed in like other 10 codes are rarely ever used. Rarely ever. And when
Yeah,
I
I
say
don't hear
rarely ever,
much.
I mean you are probably, for going from solo cadet to full officer, the final eval, you are maybe likely to get one really far off, rarely ever used, maybe heard it once in my life, 10 code on radio. But outside of that, I promise you, you're not going to be getting a 1064, which is a message for local delivery. It's just not going to happen. All right. So don't
Yeah.
focus too much on those. Just make sure you know the important ones, like the very important ones. which are all highlighted, and also, again, the most commonly used ones are up on the top hand side. But that is it. I would definitely say, considering I didn't experience not once any of the stuff that had been given to you as feedback beforehand, I think you're on the right track. I think you're on the right track.
Yeah, thank you.
Not a problem. I'm gonna be real. It's my first FTO session. I'm assuming you have to go 42. Considering it's been the 4 hours, or I believe it's been the 4 hours.
Yeah. I
Alright.
have to go 42 for sure. Yeah, I'm getting a bit tired now anyway. So.
How long have you been up? You sound exhausted, and you just about fell asleep at the damn apartments.
Yeah. I think I've only been awake in city for about 4 hours. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Fully
Well.
in, but yeah, it was a lot to take in, today. So.
Yeah, not wrong. Definitely not wrong.
But it was
All right.
good,
Mm-hmm. Get out of here, Lawson.
Yeah.
Are
Thanks for that.
you gonna be having an FTO session tomorrow if FTOs are available? Okay.
I might tomorrow, if not, definitely Monday. So.
Sounds good. I'll likely see you then.
So hopefully I'll get you again.
Have a good one.
See ya.
All right. So, FTO reports. This can be deleted. Confirm. Perfect. All right. So, FTO report. Staff. Lawson. Shift 3. Let me throw music on. Why can't I? You know what, chat? We go back to the old Hollister playlist. Am I gonna get judged? First song here. No, absolutely not. Okay, we can deal with this. You know what? Song radio from here. Perfect. General comments. Prior comments indicate that Lawson issue their actions instead. Actually, whoops. However, all right, so we can't do these. Reports are not bad. Oh, whoops. Reports are not bad. So we didn't really go to anything advanced, but his. I'm kind of. All right, so actually. Okay, so we'll cover each of these. We can't do pursuits because he didn't really have any pursuits. keys. Actually. All right. Whoops. Um. Actually, let's see. Okay. Radio etiquette. What song is this? I don't know about this. Save. All right. So radio etiquette. Um. All right. Well, do a 3. Um. Um. Hmm. Uh. Let's see. Traffic. You know what? Let's do this. Um. Hmm. Actually. Traffic wasn't bad. Let's see. Um,
Have you left here since?
no, I'm doing my FTO report.
I'm laughing because like I've just seen you here the whole time.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm laughing as well because I've literally just been here the whole time too.
Oh.
So,
Heads up.
yeah.
Lawson, I mean, there's definitely a lot to improve on, but he's definitely taken your feedback to heart because not once did he make an excuse for anything I brought up.
Good.
He accepted it, didn't make any excuses. I
Good.
mean, it's not like he said, won't happen again or anything, but him not giving an excuse for every single thing I pointed out, I think shows a lot considering one of your biggest points of contention was the excuses given.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, I don't want somebody to be like a soldier and be like, yes, sir, and
Yep.
salute me. Like, that's
Mm-hmm.
not what I'm looking for. But I also don't want, someone who has like that excuse for everything kind of mentality. Cause that's just, I'm telling you, if that would go to
Yep.
anybody else, then they would see that and be like, okay, this person, just get rid of them.
What did you just do?
There's
Yeah.
people out there that are, they want to learn and they're willing to learn and they take constructive criticism well. So, um, I'm glad that he took that and that he's, kind of got that realization, and that's good.
Yep.
That's
For
really good.
me, it's about he can not make excuses, right? But although he has improved on that, for me, it's monitoring, the feedback that he was given today, pointing out that specific stuff in his FTO report, so the next FTO can see it, and then hoping, obviously, he improves moving forward. I'm be
Sure.
real, between all the situations we had, obviously senior buns, to no surprise, and like pursuits, stuff like that. I didn't let him drive because I want to evaluate someone's comms before I have to then worry about them driving and doing comms
Absolutely.
while ensuring that they don't kill us both. So,
Yeah. Oh, hands down. I
um,
have not let a single person except for I let DT drive me because I feel like DT's experience is substantial. So
that's good. That's definitely
um,
good.
other
I
than
mean,
that,
he
I'm
was
not letting him
driving
drive anymore.
90% of the time until we got into the. It was very clear this dude was going to run, like very clear. So,
Yeah.
I made. Oh, actually, one thing I need to bring up. So in the situation where the person was very clearly going to run, I jumped into the driver's seat, communicated that before he even stepped out of the car, and that was fine. I don't know if he took that as like an automatic, like this is what we do type thing. But in
Okay.
a follow-up traffic stop, I believe with the same person, different car, where it was made, it was pretty obvious they were going to flee again. I jumped out. As soon as I started walking to the car, they flee. They start leaving. And then I look back. I try opening the driver door, and Lawson's sitting in the driver's seat. So I was like, no. Back in the passenger seat. And, if you are going to do this, you shouldn't do this, by default. You should either be asking for permission or at